It was a dramatic afternoon in Congress. Cameras were rolling, reporters were whispering. Papers were stacked high enough to qualify as small mountains. And at the center of it all stood Nancy Pelosi, gripping her gavel like a seasoned commander, preparing for battle. The room buzzed with noise. Senators talking over each other, papers shuffling. Someone in the back arguing about lunch. Nancy narrowed her eyes. "Order," she said calmly. Nobody listened. She raised the gavel slightly. "Order," she repeated, louder. Still nothing. The noise only grew. One senator was passionately debating something that sounded suspiciously like pizza toppings. Nancy sighed. "All right," she muttered. "We're doing this the dramatic way." She lifted the gavel high above her head. Bang! The sound that followed was not normal. It wasn't just a tap. It wasn't even a knock. It was a thunderclap. The entire chamber shook like a cartoon earthquake. Papers flew into the air in slow motion. Coffee cups vibrated across desks. One stack of documents launched upward like a paper volcano. The room froze. Nancy blinked. "Well," she said calmly, adjusting her jacket. That worked. But then something unexpected happened. The gavel began to glow. Yes, glow. A faint electric buzz filled the air. Tiny sparks flickered around the wooden head of the gavel. Nancy stared at it. "Oh no, you're one of those magical objects, aren't you?" The gavel hummed proudly. A nervous aide leaned in. "Ma'am, your gavel appears to be charged." Nancy tapped it lightly against the desk. Zap! A small bolt of harmless blue electricity shot across the room and neatly organized an entire pile of messy papers into perfect alphabetical order. The chamber gasped. Nancy raised an eyebrow. "Interesting." She tapped it again. Zap! This time, every microphone in the room turned on simultaneously, amplifying even the tiniest whisper. One senator muttered, "I forgot my lunch," and it echoed like a stadium announcement. The room burst into laughter. Nancy placed one hand on her hip. "All right, gavel. Let's use this responsibly." But the gavel had other ideas. It slipped from her grip and began hopping across desks like a caffeinated woodpecker. Bang! Zap! Each strike caused something ridiculous to happen. One bang changed everyone's ties to bright neon colors. Another zap replaced all the water in glasses with sparkling lemonade. A third strike caused the American flag behind them to wave dramatically as if it were caught in a heroic movie wind even. Though the windows were closed, nobody panicked, Nancy declared, marching after the bouncing gavel in determined high heels. The gavel leaped onto the central podium and struck again. Bang! Suddenly, dramatic orchestral music filled the chamber, as if they were in the final scene of an action movie. One senator instinctively struck a heroic pose. Another slowly turned in his chair like he was about to deliver an epic monologue. Nancy pointed at the gavel. "You think this is funny?" The gavel buzzed louder. She lunged forward and caught it mid-bounce. The music stopped instantly. The neon ties vanished. The lemonade quietly turned back into water. Silence. Nancy held the gavel firmly with both hands. "Listen carefully," she whispered to it. "We are running Congress, not a superhero movie." The gavel gave one small twitch. "Oh no," she warned. "Don't test me." She walked back to the podium slowly, every step confident and steady. The room watched nervously. Nancy raised the gavel once more, but this time, gently. She tapped it softly. Tap, a perfectly normal sound. No lightning, no music, no flying paperwork, just order. Everyone sat down calmly. One senator slowly lowered his heroic action pose. Nancy cleared her throat. "As I was saying," she began smoothly, "we will now proceed in a civilized manner." The chamber nodded collectively. From that moment on, the gavel behaved itself. Mostly, every now and then, it would give a tiny spark, just enough to remind everyone who was in charge. Later that evening, reporters asked her, "Speaker Pelosi, what happened during the electrical incident?" Nancy smiled calmly. "Sometimes," she said confidently, "you need a little extra power to restore order." The internet exploded within minutes. Cartoons showed her wielding a lightning gavel like a superhero. Memes labeled her the shock speaker. One viral video edited dramatic lightning effects every time she blinked. But Nancy, she simply placed the gavel carefully on her desk, patted it once, and whispered, "Behave." The gavel stayed very still, because when Nancy Pelosi strikes the gavel, even electricity knows when to settle down.